Hi there, my name's Marie Turner. I'm an SEO specialist at Vertical Leap. Welcome to how to set up an SEO forecast for free. I hope you're excited. My name's Marie, as I said, I've been a marketer for 10 years. My first marketing job, I was a runner for a TV ad agency and I essentially just got people's lunches all the time. Then worked for Global Radio and I run multi-platform content solution campaigns and branded content. And then from there I got really into SEO. So now I'm an SEO. I've been an SEO for 5 years and I'm now an SEO specialist at Vertical Leap. You should also really know that I'm really into space, hence my dress. And Star Trek in a big way, so this is going to be ever so slightly nerdy. This is a picture of me standing in the actual space shuttle with sandals and socks. If you're asking the question, has she always been this cool? Yes, she has. And one of my dad's colleagues worked on Cassini-Huygens, and he put mine and my family's names on a CD-ROM. I was very afraid of aliens finding me and my family, and luckily that's now not a thing because Cassini-Huygens smashed up in the rings of Saturn really recently, so I'm safe now. I love science. I love asking questions. So I loved all of these things. I love space. Saturn was my favourite planet, of course. But I really had to learn to love data. Maths and I don't always get along, or haven't always got along. We do now. Data science is a really big thing here at Vertical Leap because we're able to automate a lot of SEO tasks and data handling because we have an AI tool. It's called Apollo. It includes forecasting actually, but what I'm going to show you today is how to set up a really simple forecast, and it takes minutes in Excel. It's free. It can add real massive value to your work, but it doesn't require Python scripts and AI. Whew, I know you're sighing a sigh of relief. And the reason why I put this presentation together and the reason why I created this free Excel forecast is because SEO is really ambiguous, right? It's whatever you thought would work sometimes doesn't work. It's not an exact science sometimes. I don't know if you've ever been in my situation sometimes where you have created an on-page change and it hasn't quite worked the way that it did before or the way that you expected it to work. Maybe another competitor has undercut you somehow and you can't really prove that. So a lot of SEO is actually guesswork. It's educated guesswork. We have lots of data. We look at data all the time, but it's guesswork nonetheless. You know, we're looking at graphs and we're kind of estimating whether something's made an effect or it hasn't. And this really troubled me because when I first started in SEO and advertising, if you've never worked in advertising or you've never dealt with advertising before, it really is quite exact. I mean, and that part of SEO really unsettled me. So how could I tell what I was doing was worthwhile, making a difference? Because when I worked in advertising, I could promise a client exactly how many people would hear or see their ad or content. Even radio ads, I could tell them exactly how many people would be able to hear their ad, and we could measure that as well. And also their target audience, we could tell who was listening to their ad. And they'd be really happy because they'd given them something with really minimal audience wastage. We were targeting exactly the people that they wanted to, and we'd given them what they'd asked for, and oftentimes even more than that. And so with SEO, it can feel like stabbing in the dark sometimes, or trying to see in the future using magic, and you're trying to pull the right strings. I don't know if you've ever said that to your clients or your managers, we're pulling all the right strings. So how do you know when the on-page updates you've made have worked? Right now. Because it could have been a small algorithmic update that's changed the characteristics of your niche for that page. There could have been unseasonal demand all of a sudden. There could have been subtle fluctuations in the market outside of search. You could have lost a competitor. You could have gained another competitor. Another competitor could have underperformed and it could have made your page better rather than the on-page updates that you've just made. So it's really hard to tell. And that's because SEO is dealing with people, not algorithms. And this is really important to remember, that to get to the bottom of this ambiguity issue that I have and that some other people have as well, we're no longer second guessing what a team at Google are going to do next, because we're all, and including search engines, we're all trying to understand people, and that's the bottom line. And we're also trying to understand why they want the things that they do and when, and most importantly, when it comes to search, what do they want? And this is why we need to take a really scientific approach to research, because by asking questions, creating hypotheses, testing those hypotheses over and over, will we be able to get SEO less ambiguous, and our data is going to get even more helpful. We just need to be able to tell what's unusual and what is just natural fluctuations in traffic, because if you have a website that changes in traffic really quickly or has big fluctuations, it can be really difficult to tell. So if you have a bumper Black Friday last year in November, and then you make another on-page change to a page the following November, and you're comparing year-on-year traffic to try and understand the value of or impact that change has had on your site. And it might look like, given you've had this massive Black Friday, that actually traffic and the change that you've made has gone down, and that's something that you shouldn't be doing again. Or you could just ignore that data completely, and you could just look at the data this year and you've got no year-on-year comparisons or month-on-month comparisons. Imagine being able to tell that your client, that your work has made an impact, and how much impact as well, above what is normal. And this is where I'm going to introduce you to something called standard deviation. If you did A-level maths, you probably knew what standard deviation was. I certainly didn't know what standard deviation was about 4 or 5 years ago. But essentially what we're trying to do is understand what is unusual traffic and what is normal business as usual traffic for a site. And those can be wildly different depending on the site and depending on the market. So this is standard deviation. These are the two formulas. So there are two types of equation, if you remember. We've got n and n minus 1. So n is population. So this is the formula that you need to use if you have all the data present that you want to measure. So if you want to compare, for example, 2, 3, 4 years worth of data, complete years, you use n minus 1. Not n minus 1. Then you want to use n minus 1 if it's a sample. And the minus 1 corrects this discrepancy. So say you want to measure your data over a year, but you don't have a complete year's worth. You have a few weeks or months missing. Tracking might have gone down. So use this sample. And if you're sitting here thinking, Marie, that's a lot of maths, Marie, stop doing this to me. Don't worry. This is very, very simple basic stuff, because how do I know this? So this is me when I was about 4, looking very confused. It's because I have dyscalculia. I'm dyslexic with maths. I'm dyslexic with numbers. I can't tell the time. I find it really difficult to read a long line of numbers or a serial code. I dread it when somebody rings me up and asks me, what's the serial code? Because I will trip up and I will mix all my numbers all together. But like many other dyscalculics, Einstein, I need context. And that's it. And this is going to give you lots of context. So never ever think the data science isn't for you, just because you're dyscalculic or just because you think that you're not great with numbers, because it is. And it's giving you that context that you need. So all you need to remember is that complete data, you want population. Incomplete data, you want sample. That's it. And here's the process. So grab your notepads and notebooks, WordPad, Notepad, whatever at the ready. First thing we need to do is remove our outliers. And an outlier essentially is an unusual chunk of data. So I don't know if you remember the Black Friday example I used earlier in November, and you're having trouble understanding the year-on-year comparison. So that is an outlier. That is a really unusual piece of seasonal activity. So if you don't normally have a really successful Black Friday, then that's an outlier. So by removing outliers, we can better get a much better standard deviation. So first of all, you need to download your data. So, and also for this process, you can use any type of time series data that is split down into days, weeks, or months. So this could be email outreach then. So if you use an email outreach software like BusStream, you can download your data and work out the standard deviation of how many opens and email sends that you get, what's unusual, what's not unusual. Are you going to release a new press release campaign that's going to make loads of brand new opens and clicks? So you're going to suddenly get some more links. You can use link acquisition over time. For this, we're going to use GA. You can also use GSE, because now you can download your GSE data. Thank you, Google. So what you need to do is download it as a CSV or an Excel. We're going to use Excel for this. So it probably makes sense for you to download it as an Excel, but really it doesn't really matter as long as you save it as an Excel. Got your data. And then you want to put your time series into 2 columns. So here we've got 2 years worth of sessions data, and we've got the dates that match up either side. So that's also really important. So we've got the sessions for 2018 and the sessions for 2019. You can tell already that the data fluctuates really wildly, and this should really help with that. Just make sure they match up, because we're going to average those 2 session dates in the next column. And this is another Excel formula. So what you want to do is create a core date. So average out each day using equals average, and then copy and paste your cells, and then go down one by one. So you should have an average sessions by day. And then what you also want to do is format the cells as dates, and you need to remove the year. So what we're saying with this graph is, on average, over the last 2 years, on the 7th, has had X amount of average sessions. So that's our outliers gone. And the more years you can compile on top of this, or the more months, year on year, the more accurate this is going to be for you. And then we need to create a line graph. So we're creating a line graph with the average sessions. So if I go back, the green columns in here. Create a line graph. Done. That is it. I'm joking, it's not it. So this is your average sessions over the last 2 years in there. Next of all, there's a little plus bar on the right-hand side of your Excel spreadsheet, on your chart even. You want to click that, then go down to error bars, and there's a little black arrow. Just click the black arrow and it says standard deviation, and then you'll see this lovely grey bar that appears, and that is your benchmark. That is your average sessions over the last 2 years for your entire website. And this is an entire website I've used for this example. This is one of my sites. Then we want to work out our standard deviation. So we want the number as well. This is probably the most maths you're going to need to do at this point. So all you need to do is type in equals STDEV, and if you have complete data, population, and incomplete data, sample. And then select all the average columns. So here we've got impressions as an example. You select all the average impressions in there, and it will tell you day by day over the last 2 years on average how many sessions or impressions or whatever data fluctuates over time. And there you have it. That is your basic forecast. So this is before your campaign. You'll set this up before your campaign, or your change, or your site migration, for example. This is very handy for site migrations. And now you can tell what is usual traffic fluctuations and what aren't. So once you've run your test, make the date, or the site migration, make the date of the site migration, or if site migration is split down into different phases, mark the dates of each of those phases, and then pull your site data from those points and add those into the graph. So on the next 2 columns next to the average impressions, you add your other columns by day part. Go wild. Then simply add your data in the end of the graph. And then if your data is above standard deviation, then it will show above. If it's in the middle and it's inconclusive, then it will be within those grey bars. You can say, well, actually it's inconclusive. So we can do some other things. We can try some other stuff to see if it moves the needle, because at the moment it's within natural, usual traffic fluctuations. Or if you've made it worse, then you've made it worse, and it just shows up in here as well. And then you can go back to the drawing board and have a look at what's happened. Probably redirect if it's a site migration. And you made it. So you have your forecast, you have your results. It's, say, for example, that site migration that you've just done has made a massive impact. It's above standard deviation. You can say that this is not usual traffic. This is definitely as a result of something we have done on the site. What does this mean for you? So you can understand which tactics your site needs. So instead of saying, right, well, we know that we need to do metadata, we'll just put metadata there in the roadmap, or we'll just add this tactic because we think that's the right thing to do. We're pulling the right strings. You can say, well, actually, this worked really well, and how well it worked, because this is above the average traffic fluctuations. And yes, this is 7 of 9 in Astrometrics. Very good spot for Voyager fans out there. 7 of 9 is a very analytical person, which is why she's perfect for this slide. You can have more efficient SEO as well. So you know what works for your site. You can get rid of the stuff that doesn't work. And you can understand your client's niche and your client's market a hell of a lot better. Data for Prime Minister, if anybody knows data, he is great. And you'll have more effective SEO as a result. You'll because you're weeding out those tasks that don't have a huge effect or are inconclusive, you'll then start concentrating on the things that you know that are going to make a big difference or you know that have worked well. Gotta love a graviton beam there from Voyager. And you'll get better internal buy-in as well. So this is Jean-Luc Picard obviously being persuaded into doing something. It looks like everybody's kind of ganging up around him. There's Chief O'Brien there just in the background. So the people who give you your budget, the people, your clients, the people who are your stakeholders will understand a lot better what impact that you're having on the site. And you can also, as a result, show more real value to your clients. So especially like the Admiral Paris here and need a bit more convincing, you can show them, well, actually, because we know that this is unusual traffic, this is more likely to be something that we've done or we've created on the site or this subfolder or this page or this outreach campaign. And that's it. That is literally it. It's the most simple thing in the world. There are definitely more detailed and more complicated forecasts you can do. There's forecasts that we can create within Apollo, for example, that expands out over time and makes clever predictions depending on your existing traffic. But that is a very simple forecast and that should make a huge difference to the way that you work. If you've got any questions, we'll answer them at the end. Or if you're too shy to ask me now, you can find me at Twitter at Marie Turner. Always happy to talk about Star Trek if you also love Star Trek or space. Come at me. And thanks.